Expenses are commonly called in accounting overhead.
You want
So
to
you
do
need
that?
all the cost of doing business
Yeah, let's see.
and the total dollar value. You run $1 million gross sales business, you have $200,000 in expenses. The cost of running the business, right?
Yeah.
Not labor, not equipment, not material, not subcontract. The cost of running the business, advertising, salaries, rent, utilities, phone, all those expenses, legal fees, attorney fees, any subscriptions you have, like the Synced Up or LMN or any one of these great softwares, all those things are expenses. I'm not saying my percentages are right, but if you have $1 million gross sales company, you're somewhere in 200 grand. Okay? Once you know that number, divide that number by your proposed billable man hours. So if you think you're going to work 8,000 hours, you're going to bill 8,000 hours this year, 9,000, whatever the number is, right?
Yeah.
How do you know that number? You look at historical data. What you billed last year, what you billed 2 years ago, what you billed 3 years ago. You know how many hours you billed, right? It's in your math, in your QuickBooks. So you pull that number out. To achieve $1.1 million in gross sales in 2024, 2025, we're going to have to bill out 8,500 hours at this rate, plus material and other things, in order to pay our overhead. Okay? So you take 200,000 divided by $8,500, it comes out to about 30 bucks. I don't know if that math is right. I'm probably close to it. I'm guessing. Okay? $30. You're like, okay. So for every billable man hour that I bill out, if I recover 30 bucks, by the time I bill out 8,500 hours, I'll have paid all my expenses via the homeowner. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. That's the first part of the equation of a labor rate. The second is your average wage rate. Okay, what's an average wage rate? I got 4 people. I got a foreman, a leadman, and 2 team members. You with me?
Yeah.
I pay this guy $25 an hour, this guy $20 an hour, and these 2 guys 15 and 14. I don't know. Okay, whatever the numbers are. I add those numbers up and divide by 4, which gives me the average rate of pay for that team.
Oh,
You with me?
Yeah.
Average wage rate. Let's say that comes to $20. You with me? Okay. So I got $30 and I got $20 so far. Here's the third part of the equation. It's called labor responsibility. A lot of accountants will call it labor burden. I don't like the word burden. Burden sounds like a backpack full of rocks. I don't think of the people that work with me as a backpack full of rocks, a burden. That's no fun. I think of them as my responsibility. I love Jeff Finley and I want him to succeed. I'm responsible for his success. So I have things that keep him here and keep him happy. Some things I gotta do, FICA, FUTA, SUTA, workman's comp. Those things are mandated by the government. Are you with me?
Yeah.
But I also have health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance, sick days, vacation days, personal days. I've got all these benefits that I would like to supply to Jeff because I love him and I want him to stay here and be a great team member. So that's typically 40% of my average wage rate. So 40% of my average wage rate, $20 my average wage rate, 40% is $8. I think I'm right. Does that sound right? Yeah. So now I'm at $28 plus $30, I'm at $58. So if I'm billing out $58 every time my team is working, I've recovered my expenses, I've recovered all their benefits, and I've recovered their wage. Are you with me?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you start. Don't begin anywhere else. Then we have to address direct costs. Okay? Direct costs are the direct cost of producing the product. What am I building? I'm building a permeable pavement. What is required in building a permeable pavement? I've got to lay out this area. I got to know that I'm building the pavement where I told them I'm building the pavement. Does that make sense? I have to set some elevations. I've got smart level. I'm going to shoot some elevations. I'm going to make sure that I have a uniform excavation if that's what I've called for, or funneled or swaled or crowned excavation. Whatever I wanted to do is going to happen. I got to get all my grades set. Staking schedule, grading plan into the ground. How does that occur? I've got to scarify and amend the subgrade. I've got to install a geotextile fabric. I've got to put in a base. I've got to put in layers of biaxial grid every 3 or 4 inches, depending on how much traffic you're going to get and what climate you're in. Everybody with me? I got to put in a fabric. I got to screed a bedding layer. I got to lay my units. I got to joint fill my units. I got to edge my units. I got to trowel my edge. All these are steps to producing a product. I take all those steps and I break them down by labor, equipment, material, and subs. Labor, equipment, material, and subs. How much labor will I consume? How much equipment will I use? If it's 0, write 0. What material will I have to buy? None, maybe. Maybe I have to buy joint fill. Maybe I have to buy the units, whatever they cost. That's my material cost. And subcontractors. And I subcontracting anything I'm not good at. If you've ever read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber and Tony Bass, the E-Myth Landscape Contractor Edition, there's 2 chapters on why you should use subcontractors. If you're a hardscape contractor and you're putting in sod or irrigation, I'm going to kill you. You cannot have people who are trained to do this putting in sod and irrigation. It doesn't make sense. That's not what they specialize in, and it's a different labor rate calculator. You with me?
Yes.
So now I've taken all the steps to build a permeable pavement. I've broken them down by labor, equipment, material, and subs. Labor, equipment, material, and subs. Lions and tigers and bears on line. Are you with me? All down the line. Now here's where you lose money. You ready? It's called indirect cost. The cost not directly attributed to producing the product. An example. I'm putting aggregate in the joints. And I hear Rockin' Wood's truck show up. I gotta go greet it. Because I need my material staged a certain way. I don't need cap on a pallet put on top of wall that's on a pallet. The forklift driver might not know that. They're just unloading the truck and trying to make it ready. So I gotta stop what I'm doing, greet the truck. How are you? Good, I'm good. Okay, I want this here, I want that there, I want that over there. All right, good. So the time I went from working to load and unload time, aggregates, materials that are getting delivered, is an indirect cost of the producing the product. Every time I'm driving to the job with my team in the truck is travel time. It's an indirect cost of producing the product. Anyone who's ever peed on a window on a truck well, shame on you. A porta potty is an indirect cost of producing the product, right? Yeah. If I expect, how old are you? 17 years old. If I expect, I'm 27, so I got 10 years on. Don't eye me. If I expect that he's as good as me at hardscaping is an insanity. I've been doing it more than he's been alive.
Yeah.
So I have to take time, even though I am great at building things, and I want to build things. I can't build as much as me and him combined. So I have to stop what I'm doing and coach him and explain what he's doing, why it's right, why it's wrong, why I would use this rake versus that lute, this compactor versus that compactor, this saw versus that splitter. And then eventually, he gets so passionate about what we're doing and learning from somebody, a coach, that he says, I don't want to leave. I got great benefits, I got great features, we're learning, we're getting better, we're kicking butt, we're doing things no one else is doing, we're doing colors no one else is doing, we're in high demand, I love this, it's exciting, we're outside, we're in the sun. You ever work in an office? Yeah. Do it for a week. Right? Yeah, you'll be thinking about suicide. Like, what? We ever go outside? Not till it's time to go home.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I work in an office. Just saying. I'm a necessary indirect
But at
expense
least
evil.
you have a window that you can look out. You know,
Yeah.
and talk to people.
Yeah. All those are indirect costs of producing the product. Some people call them general conditions. I call them indirect costs of producing the product. You have to classify them. Porta potties, travel, tolls, supervision, loading and unloading time, all those indirect costs. Okay? So now I know what I'm charging per man hour. I figured my labor, equipment, material, and subs in my direct cost. I know what all my indirect costs are, right? All these costs not directly attributed to producing the product. I come up with a number. Okay? Now here's where, again, you lose money. You are not Walmart. You are not a big box store. You don't buy stuff, put it on a shelf, mark it up. Somebody buys it, and you make a markup on something you bought from someone. You're in the production business. You make things. You take great paving stones that Tekel Block produces and retaining walls, and you turn them into things that look like paradise, look like Eden, just incredible. And it takes a lot of things. We're moving around all the time. You're in the margin business. You're in the business of making money on every component, embedding the profit into the overall cost of the project. Okay? So if you take $10,000, and who has a calculator on the phone? I do. Oh, you do? Okay. 10,000, and you multiply it times 1.25. That will give you 25% markup. What is that? $12,500. Okay. Okay, yeah, I know. I
That's
saw
what
you.
the office works
Just go
out
sit
for
in the
you.
window. Just go look out the window.
My office skills.
Okay, smartass, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Now, we're going to make a margin. We're going to embed our profit into our costs. We're going to make money on everything: labor, equipment, material, subs, supervision, everything. All our expenses. Taxes is an expense. Try not paying your taxes, and then tell me it's not an expense. Sure it is. You know, they'll lock you up. You can kill somebody. You'll get away with it. Ask OJ.
He ain't up there.
But you'll pay your taxes.
He's not up there.
Right. That's a good point.
See an egg roll.
Now, take 10,000 divided by 0.75. I'm going to divide by the reciprocal of my margin requirement is what?
2,500 divided by 0.75.
Yeah.
13,300.
What is it?
13,333.
Tell me again. I can't hear you.
13,000.
13,333.33.
333.333.
Subtract. Just hit subtract. $12,500 from that number.
833.
What is it?
Yep. 833.
Where'd that money go? We made a markup of 25%.
Right.
We made a margin of 25%. There's an $833 difference.
Yeah.
What happened?
You're to the positive.
Huh?
You're to the positive. That's your markup.
No, it's not.
No.
Your markup. Multiplying times 1.25 is marking up your costs
That was
by
12,000.
25%.
Okay.
Embedding your margin into the selling price, so you're doing algebra, you're solving for the selling price, is $13,333. So if you're using markup on a $10,000 cost job, you're losing $833, right? Every single time.
Wow.
Multiply that times your gross sales.
That's huge.
So you embed your margin into your selling price. Okay? You're not Walmart. You don't buy something from China, put it on a shelf and mark it up 25%. You're not in that business. You're making things. So you have to embed your margin. So how do I bid jobs? I know
No.
what my costs are, my expenses are, my overhead.
Right.
I divide that by my billable man hours, remember that?
Yeah.
I come up with a number, $30, $40, $50, whatever that number is.
Right.
Right? I take my average wage rate.
Right.
I take my labor responsibility, typically 40% of my average wage rate. I come up with a billable man hour rate, $55, $65, $75, $105 an hour, whatever that number is. Now that I have my labor rate, I can start doing my direct costs, labor, equipment, material, and subs, labor, equipment, material, and subs, by every function of the direct cost of producing the product.
Right.
I know the first one, that's easy, labor,
Yeah.
$55, $65, $105 an hour. I know my material cost because there's a lady in a window who's going to give it to me, delivered to the job site, because I sure as hell don't want to come and get it. I'm in the business of building things. I'm not in the business of going to get things. I got hardscapers that work for me that are good. I don't want truck drivers. Want to be a truck driver? Go to truck driving school. We're hardscapers. We build shit. And it's awesome. Some of it's here and some of it's way up there. Let's build wood-fired ovens and stuff. That's I want us on the job site. Delivered prices. My subcontractor pricing is pretty easy. I need some irrigation done at 3247 Stone Wheel. All right, I'll call you back tomorrow with a number. Okay. They call you back. Maybe, I don't know, $8,000 to do the irrigation. Okay, divide that by 0.75. You can eventually do that. There's your subcontractor cost. I don't do irrigation. I don't want to do irrigation. I don't run a ditch witch. I don't want to run a ditch witch. I don't want you learning to run a ditch witch. Don't date any witches. Stay away from witches. Just in general. You with me? Indirect cost. Anything that you can't find a place to put goes in indirect cost. Not directly cost attributed to the product. Once you got all your costs, if somebody double check them, you divide by the reciprocal of your margin requirement. I would think dividing by 0.75 would be the minimum. If you're making less than 25% margin, which in our case was $3,333 in margin, profit margin, gross profit margin, before, some people would say before EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, and amortization, but I put my taxes in overhead, so I'm not really worried about that. So really it's net margin. I'm gonna walk with $3,333 in net profit unless I made a mistake. And it's just fine, because I'm human, I just don't wanna make it again. So I'll make sure to call that out on the board in our office and say, you're a dumbass, it costs us $200. You forgot NDS drainage, you forgot Aqua Rock number 9 stuff or whatever. So how do I bid jobs? That's how I bid jobs. Every time. And every time I do it, I put it in Element, I put it in Blue Claw, I put it in Synced Up or Aspire or any one of those softwares, I have that data forever. Hey, didn't we build a job like that last year? What's your name? Jordan.
Speak up, Jordan.
Jordan goes,
I use the L&M, do you?
it was the Smith residence.
awesome.
It's a lot like this job we're building. Let's go back and look at the Smith job. Let's look at our production rates. Oh, look, we missed this drain. Oh, look, we missed that pipe. Oh, look what we missed. I got all that data. I move it forward and I make sure I don't miss it this time. Next time. Jordan gets better every time because I'm coaching him and he's helping me and I'm teaching him. And eventually, Jordan starts edging me out, saying, like these guys are doing when I get up on stage and showcase. You start edging me out. Like, I want to talk. Excuse me. I'll stand aside. Jeffrey.
So he's an indirect cost, but a necessary investment.
Yes, that's right. That's how you bid jobs. In the quick and dirty. And I wouldn't buy your company, and I wouldn't help someone buy your company, and I wouldn't help you buy a company that didn't have the software that just did what I told you.
We use L&M, so
LMN.
I love it.
Landscape Management Network. Love him. Mark's a bad dude. Gunslinging. Bad dude. I love him. It's great for our industry. A little monotone. You can throw in a bad word. I'm just saying, just say a bad word once in a while. I tried to tell him. It works for me. Or not. Desmond. Devon.
I die with